Hey kids, welcome to Masterpiece Kids Online. Last week we learned about having good sense and how it starts with putting God first. We must obey His command to tithe. Does anyone remember what tithe is? Yes, it is giving the first 10% of our money to God. If we obey Him and put Him first, then He will take care of the rest. Today we are going to learn about how God can provide every need that we have. To find out more about that, let's go ahead and watch this video.
Hey everybody, this is Sophia. Welcome back to our series, Dollars and Cents. We're going to be learning all about having good sense with our money and possessions. I have some good news and some bad news. Which do you want first? Okay, here's the bad news. I lost my job. I learned the hard way that you really do have to obey your boss if you want to keep your job. But remember, I had good news. The good news is I'm going to win the lottery. Then all of my needs will be taken care of. Don't you think that's a great idea? Wait, before you answer, I had another source to get my needs taken care of. I think I'll invest in one of those get-rich-quick schemes they show on TV.
Buy this video course and you too can become a multi-millionaire. All for the low, low price of only $79.95.
What do you think? Should I do that? Okay, you're pretty smart. I don't need to look to any of those things as my source. God is my source and provider of everything I need. I don't need to worry or freak out. I just need to let Him know what I need, obey Him, and trust that He will provide. That's exactly what you're going to learn in your lesson today. It only makes sense to trust God. After all, He created everything. He has so much to give. Well, I better let you get into our lesson. Until next time, this is Sophia. See you soon.
Isn't it cool that we serve a God that created everything? He has access to so much more than we do. We can't depend on banks, the government, or rich family members to meet our needs. Instead, we must realize that God will provide our needs according to His glorious riches.
Our Bible story today is all about the prophet Elijah. Elijah was living beside a river, but something very sad happened. You see, there was a drought in the area, and the river dried up. There was no water to drink and no food to eat. Talk about being in need. I mean, Elijah had some very big needs. And God spoke to Elijah and said, "Go and live in the village of Zarephath. There's a widow there who will feed you." So Elijah traveled to the village of Zarephath. When he arrived, he saw a widow gathering sticks, and he asked her, "Can you bring me a cup of water and some bread to eat?" Well, the woman replied, "I don't have a single piece of bread in my entire house. I only have a handful of flour and only a small amount of cooking oil. I was about to cook this very last meal for me and my son, because then we're going to die." Well, Elijah said to her, "Don't be afraid. Look, make me a cake, then make something for you and your son. God will provide." Now, can you imagine what this widow must have been thinking? I mean, here she is about to make this small meal for her and her son, when all of a sudden this prophet comes along and says, "Make me a cake first." She must have thought he was crazy, but the widow did just as Elijah had asked. She gave Elijah the cake to eat, and then she went back to her flour and cooking oil containers. And do you know what she found? She found even more cooking oil and flour. She made a meal for herself and her son, but she didn't just have enough for one meal. Every time she went back to the flour and cooking containers, God provided even more. It was a miracle. God continued to provide all the flour and cooking oil she needed for herself and her son. Today, we'll be learning about how God can provide for our needs, just as He provided for Elijah and the widow. God will provide for our needs as well.
You are so muscly. Oh, hello everyone.
Hello.
My name is Van.
And my name is Glenn. We're here to pop
Joab! Yeah, Glenn and I are power lifters!
Yeah, as if it wasn't obvious. Yeah. We also love a good knock-knock joke.
Oh, Glenn, tell me a good knock-knock joke.
Okay, here we go. Knock, knock.
Hold on, I forgot what I say next. Oh, who's there?
Let us
Who?
Let us run to this power verse. Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah. Well, today's part of us says, and this same God who takes care of me, will supply all your needs from his glorious riches, which have been given to us in Christ Jesus. Philippians 4:19. Oh, that was a very powerful part of us.
Yeah.
But you know what we need?
What do we need?
We need the boys, and the girls, to stand up and say the part of us with us on the count of 3.
Yeah, but we need to do it powerfully. So, everyone, we will run in place. Yeah, like this. Here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
And this same God who takes care of me will supply all your needs from his glorious riches, which have been given to us in Christ Jesus. Philippians 4:19. Oh, that was a very powerful part of us. You may all sit down.
Yeah, good job. Well, listen, my brothers.
Yeah?
It is time for us to go.
Oh, but until next time, when we teach you another powerful power verse, my name is Vern.
My name is Glenn. We're here to
Pop Jua!
Have you ever had a major need in your life? Maybe one of your parents lost their job, so your family had a hard time paying the bills. Maybe you didn't have enough money to go on a school trip that you really wanted to go on. Whatever your need was or is, it is a difficult feeling to have a major need in your life and not be able to do anything about it. Today we heard an incredible story about how God provided for Elijah and the widow. There are several lessons that we can learn from this Bible story. The first is to admit your need. When Elijah asked the widow to cook for him, the widow quickly admitted that she had a need. She admitted that she was in need of flour and cooking oil. In fact, she admitted that she barely had enough to cook herself and her son their last meal before they were going to die, much less make a meal for Elijah. She didn't act like everything was okay. She admitted, I need oil and flour. And so this set her up for a miracle. If she didn't have the need, there would have been no need for a miracle to take place. So why is admitting your needs so important? If you don't, does it change the fact that you have the need? Of course not. Just because we refuse to admit it, it doesn't change. And the same is for us. We need to admit the things that we're going through in order for change to take place. If you are sick, admit, I need healing. Or if you're feeling lonely, you can admit that you need friends. If you're sad, admit that you need joy. When we admit our need, it's another way of admitting, I can't do this on my own, and I need God. God, I need you to provide for me because I'm going through a rough time. Elijah told the widow to go and make him a meal, even before she made one for herself and for her son. Now, did that make any sense at all? Of course it didn't. Why would she go and make this prophet a meal when she didn't even have enough for her own family? It would have been easy for the widow to tell Elijah, take a hike, right? Because she didn't have food for her son even. But she didn't. She obeyed the instructions that the prophet gave her. As a result, she received a miracle. Sometimes God gives us instructions that don't seem to make any sense. We are in need of money, and then God's like, well, you need to trust me by paying your tithe first. That may seem to make 0 sense at all. So we think, God, do you not get it? I don't have enough money as it is. It doesn't make sense to give the money in the offering. There are many times that God gives instructions that may seem to make zero sense. But we must be like the widow and obey. God gives us instructions. We must not think that we know better than God. We must not think that we can handle things on our own. We must obey God's instructions. And if we do, if we obey God, He will provide. God provided for Elijah and for the widow and her son because the widow was willing to obey God's instructions. If we will obey God, He will honor that obedience. By obeying, it shows that we trust Him. It shows that we believe He can do and will provide for us. It's so easy to think that we can handle situations better than God. But we must remember that God is greater than any problem that we have. He is able to provide according to His glorious riches. So we need to admit our need, obey God's instructions, and He will provide for you.